Hi, my name is Felicia. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be focusing on a little girl named Mona. Do not turn away. If you don't know what Nanalan is, or if you don't know who Mona is, we are going to go over the details. Mona is a 3-year-old little girl. She is a puppet. She stars in a show called Nanalan. Nanalan is about her going over to Nana's house and honestly just being a 3-year-old. She ends up learning a lot of things. She explores, she's creative, she gets into mischievous types of scenarios with Russell the dog. If you are having a bad day, this is a show you need to go watch. I guarantee there's no way that you can watch that and not immediately have a smile on your face. This show was from the early 2000s. In the past year or 2 years, there's been a resurgence of just excitement around Nanalan as people have really embraced Nanalan. They have really done a good job about focusing on trends and making Mona relatable within the trend, and so they make these clips that are hilarious and funny and cute, and you can't help but just love it. I thought that today we can make Mona. We also are going to be making a illustration of Mona with Russer in a sidecar, because one of my favorite episodes is when she gets her bicycle. So I wanted to illustrate her on her little bicycle with Russer. And we'll be doing that later to make posters. The posters will be in my shop. If it wouldn't have been for Puppet Nerd, who has his own YouTube channel, his name is Adam, I would not have been able to make this video. So let's just get into it. See you on the other side. So I did end up making a template of Mona, but we're not going to get into the minute details of that. We're just going to get into the good stuff. Just know that I did make a template. Okay, on to the show. Let's dye Mona's dress. Having done this for a few years now, I've found that if you don't know the exact formula for a color, it's best to build, and it's best to build from lightest to darkest. The one caveat to that is that you do want to know what the darkest color looks like from the jump. So I always do a sample of the darkest color just so I know, and then I will start the bath with the lightest colors and build on it, dyeing with multiple stages and drying periods, and then doing the darkest color, which in this case was purple, last. I think it turned out really close to the example I was using. Let's make Mona's head. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to be using clay to form a mini version of her head using the patterns I had made on the computer. Then I'm going to be covering it with washi tape. This will ultimately be a pattern which you will see come to life in just a moment once I cut it off of the clay sculpture. One thing to note is I am adding darts on this because this is a 3D object and we need it to be flat. We have to add darts so it will lay flat once it's cut off. And then I'm going to put this in the computer just with a picture, and I'm just going to retrace it to clean it up, but also to scale it up to the 100% size, because the size that I had made the clay version was about 30% of the actual size. Now that I've printed that out, I'm going to be putting it onto the foam, and I'm going to be cutting that out. This is going to be the base of her skull. Now I'm using contact cement. It's very important, especially for me. I wear contacts, so I don't want to get this stuff on my fingers, so I always wear gloves. And you should be in a well-ventilated room. I had multiple fans going. You will see at some point that it looks like there's a ghost in the room because one of my little Dixie cups floats away. But very important to be well ventilated. So you're gonna glue all the darts together, and then we're gonna leave the mouth open. Do not glue this. And then we're gonna glue both hemispheres to put them together. Now you can kind of see her coming together. This is a little bit of work, I'm not gonna lie. This was multiple days worth of steps, but it definitely turned out the way I was hoping. Now I made little mouth plates for her. Typically you would use a plastic. I ended up using a thick cardboard type material, like a chipboard, just because that's what I had on hand, and she's very tiny and I don't intend on using her much. She's basically to sit on my shelf, let's be real. So the cardboard was fine. And now we're going to actually start putting the fabric on her little skull so we can make a cover for her so she will be the correct color and have the texture of what I wanted, which was a muppet type of puppet. Now, one thing to note is that these really do need to be hand sewn. You can sew them on machine, but you'll be able to see the stitch lines. You'll see that I'll go back with the needle like right now. And I am fluffing up the fleece. This specific fleece has a denser fiber, so you can do that with the needle and it'll hide the seams. Now, I didn't show this, but I basically made a template and just added in a black felt piece for her mouth, and now we're gonna glue it and insert it onto the mouth plates. Let's take a little intermission with some Mona posters. I am going to be mixing a few colors. Right now I'm mixing Russer's fur color, fur spots. I think that looks good. Not bad for a first go. Here I'm printing the first test for Mona, and now we're going to go into the black. I was intending to offset this a little bit because I wanted to add a little fun, a little whimsy, play into the Mona vibe, the aesthetic. I really love the way that these turned out. Let's make Mona's hands. I'm cutting her hands out using the templates I made on the computer, cutting out the foam, and I split the foam in half. Now I'm going to be using wire to make some fingers so that way her hand will actually be moldable, and then I'm going to sandwich the wire in between the two halves of the hands. Now I'm gonna sew her hand, and I'm honestly this is kind of quick and dirty. I just traced her little hand onto the fabric that was folded in half, sewed it all the way around, leaving a gap so that way I could fit her hand on the side and the actual pole that's gonna be sticking out. And then we're just gonna flip this inside out after we've trimmed it. How cute are her hands? I can't handle it. disgustingly cute. Now I'm just going to squish her little hand in there and then with my fingers, move the fingers into the correct pockets. And then I'm just gonna use a little bit of fluff. Most people I think use foam. I ended up using fluff just because honestly that little space was so tight and these were taking a long time. So, you know. Yeah, so sorry about that. I don't know where that torso film went, but I lost it. Let's make Mona's feet. Okay, so Mona's feet, I basically just made little puff balls. And then I just sewed back and forth through the material to shape her toes. I had seen this before in like Cabbage Patch dolls, like literally decades ago when I was a kid, and somehow that was still ingrained in my head. So that's what we did, and it turned out, I mean, her feet turned out so good. Like, I can't handle how good they look. Especially because that's like one of Mona's iconic things, is always showing her little feetsies. So, I mean, I was just so excited when I saw how good these turned out. Look at that! Let's make Mona's outfit. So I did make a template, but I didn't end up using it. I ended up honestly just measuring directly on the fabric and drawing the lines by hand. To be honest, sometimes that's just the easier way to go with these kinds of projects. If this was real apparel, obviously I wouldn't have done that, but you know. Now I'm just gonna pin everything in place and then we'll put it in the machine. A couple things about Mona's outfit is she has two pleats on the front, and she has in the back, she has two panels and then a panel in the center. I'm assuming it's so that way there's enough room for the puppeteer. But you can see how it turned out. It's so cute. I can't handle it. And then her shirt, so I kind of cheated. Doing arms on a tiny little shirt like this is a pain. So I just folded a piece of fabric in half and completely cheated and sewed down the sides. You know what? It works, okay? And it looks cute and it looks like her little turtleneck. So I'm here for it. You know, sometimes it's okay to cut corners on projects as long as the aesthetic is correct. One other thing about this little shirt is that I noticed that real Mona has like flared sleeves a little bit because she doesn't have like a seam around her wrist. It's like tucked in. So I did the same thing. Because I always look at her little outfit and I'm like, this is so cute. I want to make sure it's exactly the same. And then these wires will be trimmed down and replaced with actual rods. You'll see that in a little bit. Let's add the details. So now we're gonna work on her hair. So I ended up using wool that you would use like for wool projects, and I just bought some pink beads. And then we're gonna start making her eyes. So this was kind of a long process. I ended up using epoxy clay. Again, you have to wear gloves. I see people all the time not wearing gloves, and honestly I'm like, oh, danger. Anyways, I'm in danger. I ended up sculpting these using a template I made on the computer, and then once they were dry, I sanded them. Again, very well ventilated area. The dust from this is like not good. See, the ghost just came by. And then I glued these to popsicle sticks, and I'm gonna mix some epoxy to dip the eyes in so that way there's a really nice gloss on this. Again, ventilation is key here. All this stuff is super toxic. I where I'm working at is a big open space, and then I have fans and I have doors and windows open. It's so important. I cannot stress this enough. Now we're gonna be making the puppet rods. I'm cutting some wood. Also, do not try this at home. And then we're going to be painting them, and we're gonna let them dry. And then we're gonna fix her wrists. So I'm cutting the wires down and putting real rods in. And then I'm gonna sew it up. And then we'll attach the bottoms. And now we're gonna actually attach the eyes. So I kept playing around with these to make sure that they match the real Mona. I had her up on my computer and then was like making sure. Then I used pins to mark where I wanted it and then just glued them down. And I had pinned her hair on because I wanted to see her eyes on there first. And now I'm just sewing on her hair. Now, the last thing that I have to do is add her tongue. So not all Monas have a tongue, I noticed, but I do like when she has the tongue. So I always think it's funny when she's like that pickle episode, or when she's like with the brownies, you know, it's a vibe. So just fine tuning. What do we think? I'm so excited with how she turned out. This green is not her exact green, but this is one I had. I can't get over it. I've never made a puppet before. I think for my first puppet, this is pretty legit. Look at this! The secret footage. Hello. I can't get over it. She looks so real. I can't handle it. Every time I walk by her now, I have to like tap her on the head and pat her. It's like, it's so crazy. I love her so much. Like, this was so worth the effort. I can't get over it. Even like learning how to move her face, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it looks so much like her. It's Mona. It has been a very long day. We have been editing for the past 12 hours for this video. I just wanted to say thank you so much for checking out the video and watching all the steps. It was definitely a labor of love. The video itself had 9 hours worth of footage. Yeah, I know. And I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and have a great day. Bye, friends!